cool.
I heard that.
I heard it. I wish that was the beginning of every show. That was like, these guys are cool. They've hired a robot.
You have to verbally consent.
That's right. The robot. What does the robot say? Recording in progress. Golf nerds unite.
Can I bring you a coffee?
Mr. O'Connor, Mr. Glassman. All right, nerds. Welcome to Swing Thoughts. I'm Howard. He's Tim. Charles Fitzsimmons, our guest here in a second. You can see him on, if you're watching this on the YouTubes. It's Swing Thoughts. And wow. What happened, full disclosure, what happened, Tim and I got together about 20 minutes ago and we realized we were both wearing the same jacket. And I said, you know what, man, I like you, but I just don't think I can do the twins thing on our broadcast today. So we're well festooned, aren't we, from JWApparelinc.com. Tim, why don't you tell the folks at home what you're wearing?
Oh, I'm wearing a zero restriction. It's kind of like a vest, but it has sleeves made of cloth.
Yes.
If I was really prepared, right, I could tell you it is a certain microfiber.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
I'm trying to erase this thing from the ashes. And I'm wearing...
No, it's fine. It's a beautiful. You know why they call it zero restriction, though?
Because
there's very little restriction.
Thank you. I finally got that sorted out. Thank you, golf spiritual leader.
Jonathan
and I'm wearing
Wong
a lovely
Apparel.
fairway and green shirt here.
And you look really good in it, too. Jonathan Wong Apparel, Inc. offers golfers of all ages quality apparel from head to toe. Each brand delivers great quality and styling for all weather conditions, and that's what we're all about. As we record today, we got about, 6 degrees, and it's raining sideways. JW also offers a great accessory line that can be totally customized for your club and one that you will be proud to sell. Beadradi, EPNY, Garb, that's for the kids. Royal Albatross, PRG Golf, zero restriction, as Tim said. Fairway and Green. Have you put your Sim 2, do you have the Sim 2 driver yet, Timothy?
Yes, and I am loving it. Oh my gosh. Yes. Yes, Saturday. I played Saturday, played Sunday, Monday, Wednesday. I'm making up for lost time. Loving this driver, man.
Experience the driver every golfer wants to hit. You know, their thing is every golfer wants to hit and no golfer wants to follow. The all-new Sim 2 driver only from TaylorMade. Visit TaylorMadeGolf.ca to learn more. It really is. I know we say this every year with TaylorMade product, but you know, that's what they're really in the innovation business. That's what they do. Oh, God.
Yeah, that was.
I knew I wasn't going to be able to get through that without laughing at my own stupid self. They are, though. Every year,
yep,
the driver gets better. And I've been out a few times myself when I hit that driver for the first time in play on Tuesday. And a couple times I hit it so far, I scared myself.
You didn't risk an injury?
I thought, wait a second, I'm 61. It's not supposed to be that far. Anyway, I just heard from my older brother, who's a big fan of the show. He's been on the show. He's a psychologist, much like my younger brother here, Charles. And my brother David sent me a note saying he's all set up for a TaylorMade fitting out there in Calgary, Alberta.
Wonderful. Wonderful.
Like a lot of listeners of this show, they're availing
and my son
themselves.
Sean set up, but his fitting was during the lockdown, so it's being rescheduled.
The point being, a lot of listeners to this program are availing themselves of the fine technology, TaylorMadeGolf.ca. When we first met this young man, he was but an acorn with a big brain, a budding scientist, a man of science and of philosophy. He also happens to be one of this country's finest golf players. He has a lot of game, and yet he continues to come on this program.
I'm a glutton for punishment, Howard.
Yeah. For many years, he has helped me qualify for the Ontario Better Ball. Every once in a while, we'll use one of Charles' shots, and the rest of the time, you know, I really should start telling people, oh, I'm so tired of carrying Chuck Fitzsimmons around. But I don't. I don't tell them what really goes on in those rounds, Charles, because I don't want to embarrass you.
Well, I appreciate that, Howard. It's very, very kind and gentlemanly of you.
That's the kind of guy he is. We all know that.
Yeah.
Big-hearted Howard.
Yeah.
I like to think so. I don't know. You
Yeah.
guys mock away, but I like to think I'm generous. I'm generous of spirit. Where do we start? I can't remember the last time we had Charles on. I'm pretty sure since you became Dr. Fitzsimmons.
Yes, we have. Yep.
How does that? And I'll be serious for a second. I don't think I've asked you this. Two questions. Do people call you that now? And when they do, how does it feel?
One, they do occasionally call me that, or a lot of people have taken to call me Dr. Charles. Both work, neither work. I'm fine with whatever. And of course, it feels like a wonderful accomplishment that I worked crazy hard over many years to make happen. So it's certainly not something I'm unhappy about. You get the odd email saying, "Hello, Dr. Fitzsimmons." And it's like, yes, that feels right.
Is that from the email from the Nigerian prince?
Yes, it is actually.
That's right.
They're very kind.
Dear Dr. Fitzsimmons, we're having great trouble getting my 38 million out of this country that doesn't exist.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Remember those are the early days of the internet. I'd be like, this Nigerian prince is going to give me 38 million. I mean, I know with MDs, it becomes part of the moniker, your signature. Is that part of yours? You sign things now, Dr. Charles Aloysius Fitzsimmons?
No, my signature is the same as it always has been, which is illegible and just really, really kind of chicken scratch.
Yeah, me too.
It looks like soil and kind of good stuff that way.
Now, Tim and I, being 125 years old, we grew up in a time when the what did they call that, Timmy? It was cursive. Writing nicely in cursive was a thing that you were supposed to be good at. I was always horrible at it. But I'm guessing, Timmy, you probably had nice handwriting.
No, absolutely not.
Really?
Yeah, I know. I think people in my family think that I was somehow injured at a Catholic school by a nun with a very, very harsh steel ruler over the knuckles. Bad, Tim. Because, my cursive is horrible. I like to do it, but I also note that if I only have one coffee, it's better than when I have three.
Yes. I'd like to start with that. Maybe use this as a segue. You know that I read. You guys have both heard this expression I'm about to give you, but I hadn't thought about it for a while. The expression is, how you do something is how you do everything. Interesting that we're talking about how we all sign our names very quickly or scratch it out. You can barely read it. But in the world of golf and golf development and psychology, when you talk to a potential client or when you're talking to a player, what are some of the things you suss out? How they do some things is impacting how they do a lot of things.
Yeah, interesting question, actually.
I thought so. I thought it was really like a nice way to open things.
Of course,
Charles, he's a professional question asker.
Yes, and humble as ever.
Oh, shut up! Listen, but I am serious. I think there's a lot of that in golf. The way you see somebody carry themselves, or how they do some things, is what impacts a lot of the other things that go, good and bad in their games.
And I have the perfect example that comes up all the time. And it's usually with my younger athletes, but it can happen with some of the older ones too. And it's around perfectionism. And it's basically perfectionism in a bunch of different areas in their life. And so we see this a lot in students, right? Where they are really struggling with perfectionism, and either in terms of getting things in or, just having to really work really hard on things. And that's always a great starting question when people come to me and they're struggling with certain kind of challenges on their golf course is, do you struggle with these kinds of ideas in other parts in life? Usually being too hard on themselves, usually kind of overly punishing mistakes and feeling like they kind of need to do things just in this specific, perfect way to kind of succeed. And it translates so well from all these different areas. So it's certainly a big theme that has come up a lot in my work with athletes in a range of sports. Obviously, golf is kind of particularly challenging that way, but it happens in all sports too.
Yeah, that's interesting. I have the same experience, particularly with juniors. And so as the coach of the university golf team, I get these emails from these kids, and they always have these high GPAs or averages, and they do community work, and I don't, and they also play golf 5 days a week. I don't know when they sleep, but the
They
point
don't.
is they do everything at this high level, and they're always pushing, and to me, I often talk about the payoff. So a lot of great golfers have perfectionist tendencies. They'll put in the work, there's no sloughing off, whatever. The cost is that their identity ebbs and flows with how they do. Are they putting the right effort? They're always this constant thinking, judging, comparing. Oh, am I pushing myself? Am I working as hard as Jordan Spieth or whatever? And the cost is that's when they tend to really underperform, because they put themselves under so much pressure, it becomes actually kind of stifling.
Yeah, exactly. Especially in competition, right? To me, I look at kind of perfectionism on a continuum, kind of between perfectionism and acceptance. And certainly there's theoretical benefits from being a little more detail oriented in practice and really kind of trying to bring that focus. But as we get into competition, getting athletes to be more on that acceptance side and kind of just rolling with the punches can be really, really valuable. And when they stick too hard on that perfectionism piece, they really struggle to deal with mistakes. And as we all know, mistakes are part of the game in tournaments especially, and being able to roll with them is so critical.
And both of you talked about working with younger players and the challenges of maybe they being overly, perfection and driven, and very, as Tim said, they're very driven in all aspects of their lives. But I would wonder too, with on the other side, older golfers who are set in their ways, who might want to come to you and say, "Hey, listen, I'm trying to get better, work on my mental game," but they're not willing to do, Tim. They're not willing to do any work, or they don't want to put the work in, Charles, that they need, because one thing about golf is it's such a delayed gratification. You don't always find, and so the seeds are not always sprouting up because you practiced your chipping once. You expect to be, great. There's an evolution of your game. And I would think that, again, speaking for being an older tournament player, it can be frustrating knowing the kind of work it takes to get a little bit better in each little area.
Yeah, I guess from my perspective as a coach, that's all about expectation management.
Right.
And it's something I work really, really hard on with athletes to help them understand what that looks like, and what the work's going to be required, right? Even if you just use the kind of old simple analogy that takes a minimum of 3 weeks of kind of semi-daily work to form a habit. Even if you just kind of start at that as a simple introductory baseline,
Yeah.
and say,
Like
hey, you want to work
21
on,
days. Yeah.
yeah, you want to work on one skill. If you work on that skill daily, it's still going to take you kind of 3 to 4 weeks to start to make a real significant impact on that. And then let's talk about multiple skills, and let's talk about then taking them and kind of mastering them into tournaments. And you can see the timeline starts to expand out. The challenge is then people can become deterred, right? They, as you
Mm-hmm.
say, they don't want to put that work in. So helping them to find little ways to kind of celebrate the wins along the way, and to enjoy that journey is so critical, because otherwise they're kind of struggle to go through it unless they're really, really intrinsically motivated.
Yeah, well, most of the people who come to people like you and I, they're emotionally invested. I mean, they're golf nerds. They
Mm-hmm.
wouldn't come to people like you or I unless they were like living and dying with their golf game. And that's part of the struggle that they have, is that when they don't succeed, when they think, okay, this is the piece. I don't know how many times I do webinars and things. You just know from the questions that you get that, okay, this is where nirvana, the keys are going to drop into my lap, and I will become enlightened. Sorry, it just doesn't work like that. It's like, as you said, it's by increments. So a lot of times people, you have to talk with people, say, okay, you want to work on a part of your game, whatever. I remember a fellow who, Howard knows, struggled with his chipping. And this guy was close to, like, giving up the game. And unfortunately, he could not get it. he just could not sit with the idea that he was going to have a lot of failure until he finally got better, and he didn't continue. And it's not unusual in all parts of life. People think they could buy, the self-help book, get that at Friday at noon, finish it by Sunday night, and I'm cured of overeating or whatever. Wow, it's just, life is hard, as the golf spiritual leader will tell us.
Well, and one of the things Charles said, and I totally agree with you, Timothy, that there's part of the culture that we live in, and it's not much different than it was when we were younger. But the idea that people want things instantly isn't a new concept. The problem, Charles, is you were saying that it's one thing to start to acquire a bit of a nuance to a part of your game, and then to take it to the golf course, and then to take it to the Saturday morning game, and so on and so on, until you find yourself in an actual tournament. And hopefully that skill's there. But one of the things we've talked a lot about recently, Charles, and I haven't really shared this with you on our private calls, but we've talked a lot about expectations. And one of the things that's really, and it's been a nice theme for our show this year, about if you understand what good is, then, then you'll maybe not be so hard on yourself. We've had a lot of conversations with the Decade guys about what the average PGA Tour professional hits it from 125. They don't hit it to 5 feet all the time. We only see that on Sundays when the best player on the planet's having a great day. You know this. But if you're an amateur golfer and you know that at 125 yards, the PGA Tour average is about 35 feet, and you hit it to 50 feet, good job, buddy. The problem is most golfers don't know what to expect. And as you said, I'm going to throw it to you now, Charles, if you're expecting perfection, you're constantly going to be disappointed.
And your confidence is going to be crushed, right? And so
yes,
being able to understand and identify for you what a great shot is,
yes,
and realizing that, based on rough statistics, it's going to happen 15 to 20% of your shots in a kind of an average round would fit into that great category, based on certain statistic kind of measures. You can go out there and really enjoy things if you actually go out and identify those, right? And also knowing that simultaneously there's going to be 15 or 20% of kind of bad shots, right? And so being able to manage and not blow your lid when you hit those bad shots that, listen, are part of the game, no matter how good you get. Yes, it's relative to your performance. So a PGA Tour's bad shot versus, a 10 handicap's bad shot are obviously different, the same way their great shots are different. But helping people to identify and have those realistic expectations does amazing, amazing things for their fulfillment and their satisfaction, and obviously for their confidence as well.
If I may just continue with this a little bit, Timmy, because I can tell you, and both of you know me, I have had my evolution of how I, used to slam my putter into my shins quite often. And the acts of childish behavior on this program that I've revealed are legendary.
And but the scars are so unsettling.
The scars are ridiculous. But I can tell you, I've now played before the lockdown and after the lockdown. I think I've had we'll call it 15 rounds of golf. And I always joke with Rachel, I haven't had one round of golf this year where I've left the golf course wanting to punch myself in the face. And that's a win. And that's a win for me. And I can tell you it's purely because I've started to gain some control over the expectations that even a good player like myself can have. That at 200 yards, they're not good enough to hit it close. At 200 yards at my level, I'm just hoping to get it somewhere near the green. And that's a good shot.
Yeah, I'm having the same experience since
What's
our
that?
decade. Since our decade. Oh, I'll tell you then.
Yes, please. What are you having the same experience as me?
It's similar. Yes. Let me go on and tell you this.
Please explain how your similar experience is the same as mine. I'm interested.
Okay. It's really been interesting since I've been getting this new insight through the enlightened one, Howard, around Decade, because he's actually doing a post-grad, I think, in Decade now.
Yeah, you have no idea. You have no idea the level of nerddom I've stooped to.
Yeah, but at the end of the show, he's going to tell us about his thesis that he's working on. and he's going to Nigeria to work on it. But no, so in playing, just I've hit some shots and go like, okay, that's pretty good. Like, a wedge from 25 feet, great, fine, but I also hit a shot this week where I hit I think it was like an 8-iron from the rough, and the rough these days is brutal, right? Because that
crazy.
the bluegrass rough is just really going like crazy. I hit it to like 10 feet and was like, yes. So it's interesting to see how it kind of works, but the whole thing around expectations is really crucial because, as you said, Charles, if you hold yourself to this very exacting standard, I'm supposed to do this, and you don't, well, yes, your confidence gets crushed. And as we quote Carl Morris on this show quite often around where does confidence comes from evidence. But you have to kind of also understand the evidence. And that's why we need learned people like you and the enlightened one.
No, that's a really good point. It comes from evidence that you already have in your, that's a really good point. I think that if you have some evidence around good and bad, and Charles told me this years ago, we had this discussion about 3 shots on every side of your average score is just variance. And that's what the decade is really good, is giving you the evidence, Tim, about what variance is around every aspect of the game. And
Right,
I can tell you, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, listen to the difference though. So a variance of 3 shots either side of, say, your handicap, your average score. But think of how much people are invested in the difference between 79 and 80.
That's right.
or 89 and 90. It's like a world of
I know, but
difference.
that's actually, Charles, that's how that we had that discussion a couple of years ago. That's what you were telling me, that, buddy, if you shoot 75, it could have been 72, but could have also been 78, but for a bounce here or there.
Yeah, human beings have this wonderful challenge that we face called anchoring, where we tend to arbitrarily pick a number or a piece of data and say, this is the be all end all, and this is the most important thing. And in golf, it tends to shape around those kind of round numbers. It happens a lot in the stock market too. But in golf, we do it around, breaking 80, breaking 90, all those kinds of things. And yes, they're nice kind of round numbers to look at, but the truth is, statistically, shooting 79, 80, or 81 are the exact same. And you have almost zero control over what's going to happen between shooting those 3 scores. And so it's about understanding how to continue to progress and move the kind of whole curve, the whole distribution of your scores lower over time. And honestly, part of it can be as simple as just recognizing those good shots and building that confidence. I always say that confidence is basically a scale of good and bad memories, but we know that the scale is tilted against you. We remember bad stuff more easily than good stuff. So we really have to spend a lot of time celebrating and enjoying those good things and really building up that confidence, because that confidence is going to help us to hit more good shots and move that whole kind of distribution of scores and shots where we want it to be.
Exactly. But that's the challenge of golf, is that like many things in our lives, we want to control everything because we don't want pain, whatever it is. We don't want the pain of missing a 3-footer for 80. We don't want the pain of, not getting the job we want. So we want to control things. But it's so hard to learn that. Believe me, at age 64, I'm still struggling with this stuff. This idea that, when I don't try to control things and fix and solve them, often they just kind of fix themselves. As opposed to I'll be as brief as I can here. I recorded a Zoom session that I did. It was 90 minutes. I went, okay, this is too big to share. Someone said, get this thing called Handbrake, this software, run it through there. Couldn't find the file. Second time, couldn't find the file. Third time, I thought, said to my desk, can't find it. Damn it. What the? I was like apoplectic.
Wow.
Because I could not figure out this freaking app. And I had to go for a walk. And then I saw on my walk and I went, oh, just put it in fucking Google Drive, you idiot. You always do that. And now you can share it.
If you'd have called me and I would said, just go get some weed, Tim. Just relax.
No, but so anyways, just to bring it back. So it's the same thing as when let's say miss a few putts, and start to think, oh, what am I doing with my stroke? Am I doing this, doing that? So I'm trying to control the situation, and it just doesn't work. It's like when I just can let go of it, let go of the expectation, and things come easier than when I try to, be perfect and control everything that happens to me.
So Charlie Fitz, go ahead. I was going to ask you a question
I was-
about that, but go ahead.
Let me
comment.
just say one quick point about
Yeah, no,
that.
no,
is-
take your time, man.
is
Take your time.
It speaks to, this great idea that the coach from Team Ontario always kind of reminds us of. This quote is kind of do one thing a million times rather than doing a million things one time, right? And the challenge is human beings, again, have these fundamental biases. One of them being what's called an action bias, which means we tend to want to kind of fix things right away, right?
Right.
And in a sport like golf, where so much is out of our control, it's hard to know when it's kind of our fault and when it's just the game. And people's natural response is to immediately want to start fixing things and tinkering and changing. And the reality is we should be waiting a lot longer before we start doing that. And even when we start doing that, we need to look beyond just the technical parts of the game and think about the physical and think about the mental and even think about the tactical in terms of some of the decade stuff. So it's so much more complex than that. And we really need to give ourselves more leeway before we begin down that kind of cycle of doubt of what am I doing wrong? And really just kind of give ourselves that flexibility to say, hey, it's okay to hit some of those bad shots. It doesn't mean I need to change anything. And that doesn't mean that I'm bad at golf. It's just part of the game. And that just gives so much more kind of leeway in dealing with some of these challenges.
But that's so against the way I would
We
say
are.
the majority of people I play golf with.
Well, it's against the way the majority of people I interact with in a day. It's against the way that they think. I sent Timmy this thing. Scott Fawcett was referencing a Sam Harris story / meditation, and it was basically, I sent it to Tim. I cut it up, I edited it, and I sent it to my daughters. I sent it to a bunch of people that I love, and I said, just listen. Forget the golf part. I said, there's about a 6-minute piece here about what causes stress. And the short of it is every day human beings wake up hoping this will be the day that nothing goes wrong. I mean, I've said this about golf, and I've said this about golf on this show, that everyone has this fantasy on the first tee. The reason the vibe on the first tee is so unique, and we've described it. There's a sense of hope, and there's a sense of anticipation, and you're not over par, you're not under par, you're just about to play this game you love, and everything is great until you hit it in that fucking pot bunker on one, and now the game is on. And I've told the story a million times about one of the guys I play with. He's par, double bogey, and he always says, well, there goes the day. Like that's a lot of people, that's how we think. And so golf exacerbates that for all the reasons you two know and study. And what I was going to ask you, Charles, so having said what Tim says, and I agree with it about, we're wired almost for frustration and lack of, waiting for the gratification. What are some of the tools that you use or recommend to some of your players to mitigate some of the madness that is inevitable in every round?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, the biggest one is around, I call it the 20-60-20 rule, just to kind of help make it easy to remember, which is, 20% of your shots are going to be kind of great, 60% are going to be kind of average, and 20% are going to be not so great.
Right.
And, in that way, people have this ability to understand that they can kind of just check off those bad shots and they can check off those bad holes. It's said that Matt Kuchar expects kind of 10, or so bad shots around. And so when he hits one, or has a bad hole, because the same percentages kind of apply, they can kind of just check it off and just say, yep, that's part of it. And helping them to realize, again, that they have this action bias where when they have these bad holes, their brain is going to want, every part of their being is going to try and start analyzing it and breaking everything down and asking all these questions. And all that's going to do is distract them and ruin their confidence. So just giving them that awareness, and then helping them to say, listen, you've put in the training, you've put in the hard work to know that this is what you do to hit great golf shots. That's always my fundamental piece. And just saying, even though you've had a bad hole, that doesn't change that, right? And even though you've had a bad shot, that doesn't change that. So continuing to come back to that simple focus is
Mhm.
always what gives them the best chance. And all it takes is that one good shot after that double bogey or after that bad shot. And all of a sudden the day is back on, right? Oh, okay, things can happen well again. So certainly it's about helping them to understand, the challenges that are part of the sport, the challenges that are part of our kind of human existence and our human nature, and how they fit together, and then what we can really do to refocus. And whether you talk about secondary skills of mindfulness and being present and all those kinds of things, it all still comes back to hitting a golf shot. So really understanding what the individual needs to focus on for them to hit that golf shot as well as they can is kind of the simplest and most effective skill. Before you say your point, Howard, was the point from Sam Harris about his Waking Up app?
No, it was a story from Waking. It was a story from the app, but
Okay.
it was a great story just about how he was sharing how frustrated he was with a friend, and the friend said, "Well, that's a solvable problem, but what about where are you right now?"
Yeah.
And the thing is, most people get upset. I've got a buddy of mine right now. I could read you his text. He's so pissed off at the government that he can't find his second vaccine, and he's sending me emojis of steam coming out of his nose. And I'm like, dude, how much time in the day do you have to invest this negative energy? That's really the problem. It's not that you hit a bad shot. It's that it's your reaction to the shot that is the problem. And I can tell you from being a serial, shithead that like the day I made 9 and then followed it with a 2. And the reason I followed it with a 2 is because I tried really hard to sink the putt for 8. That's the lesson. Because there are bad double bogeys and there are good double bogeys. If you made double bogey because you got some bad luck and as you were trying to chip out, it just caught a branch and you didn't quite get it back to the fairway, but your intentions were good versus, we've all been frustrated and thrown shots away. That double bogey doesn't take anything away from you because you did what you could. Variance kind of reared its ugly head. Once in a while, you're going to clip a branch and you didn't quite get it there. You tried on every shot. The next hole, that didn't take anything away from you. As you both know, and I know from real experience, when you make a triple bogey and you know that you were being a baby about it, it's hard. That's why most people go triple bogey, double bogey, bogey, and they finally calm down. I don't know. There's nothing in there other than just, I think that's part of the problem is that there are ways to continue after a bad hole, depending on how whatever you perceive as a bad hole. Do you know what I'm saying, Timmy?
Yeah, well, I think part of what happens when you have the disaster hole, if you will, people get thrown off. It's like they're derailed. And the things that they were doing earlier in the round, they're no longer doing. They're not as focused. It just, the cortisol thing, their bodies like got electric. And so it's a combination of a bunch of things of which you both have touched on. As Charles was saying, awareness that this is happening to me.
Mhm.
I could make a 9 here. So what do I need to do? Do like the million things the one time. And what could that be? That could be just process. What's my process that I go through? Oh, breathe. Okay. Oh, okay. Let go of that shit. Let go of that shit. And then it's like, okay, how do I become present to this shot, this situation? What's happening here? So I can be fully present to this shot. And so I can adapt to that rather than, rifling one into the trees, stomping down to the fairway.
That's right.
Going, you idiot, you're still doing that.
You suck. I hate this game. You suck. You
Yeah,
suck.
exactly.
I hate this game. You suck.
Exactly. And then going through the Rolodex of swing thoughts back to remember in 1996, you hit them out to the right and you did this.
No,
Maybe
Timmy,
that'll work.
What I think you're saying, and I like it, is that there are rings of awareness, like from the awareness of bad holes happen to the awareness of when they happen, how do I feel, et cetera, et cetera. But Charles, just before we let you go, so do you have a way that your players quantify progress?
Progress or great shots?
Well, or no, just like what not quantify. Do you have your players keep track of? Is there a system you ask them to say, okay, grade yourself on this?
Yeah, so certainly, there's a fine balance in reflection within round because, the simple point is when players are in the zone or trying to get in the zone, any kind of self-reflection is actually going to kick you out of the zone. And so there's this very weird and delicate balance that is kind of counterintuitive, that you have to kind of create inertia or momentum to get into the zone. And then once you're there, you have to kind of just play and kind of actually do none of that self-reflection. So it's not about creating a consistent kind of self-reflection. It's more about understanding where it is in critical moments. So, I have them kind of reflect on key goals at different points throughout the round, usually, especially after a bad hole. But kind of when things are going well, just kind of let them run with it. But certainly one of my favorite things, especially lately, is really just getting players to track their great shots and put a little check mark on the hole, or I even go further and put a D for a drive, an A for an approach, a C for a chip, and a P for a putt. And just literally track those great shots, so that not only are they kind of watching for them and waiting for them, which creates this kind of fun sense of anticipation, but also they're taking a moment to acknowledge and really celebrate them afterwards, which again goes back to just helping them say, that's kind of fun. And what will happen is people might be playing, and this happened to me the other day, where I kind of had one of those front nines that just wasn't great, and I kind of looked through my tracking of great shots and realized my percentage was pretty low. And so it's either I wasn't giving myself enough credit, or probably the back nine is going to be a whole lot better. And it inspired this kind of natural optimism from kind of statistical reversion to the mean, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly.
And basically just saying, hey, if I only hit 10% of kind of great shots on the front nine, on the back nine, it's probably going to be a lot higher. And, sure enough, I went out and shot 4 under on the back nine, and all of a sudden all was right in the world. And it was just because I was open to that possibility that, things are going to kind of have that balance at some point in the long run. And I know those great shots are going to come if I kind of just keep doing what I'm doing, rather than kind of blowing it up and starting from scratch.
Yeah, exactly. A great tool is, after a round, to go through and just to think of the 3 best shots you hit that day, or the 3 favorite shots, if you will, and to really think about, what was I feeling and what was going on, and right from everything. It doesn't necessarily have to be that it was a great result, was a birdie or whatever. It's just that this whole thing just felt really good. And I think the key piece here I'm getting to is the feeling part of it. Is it, rather than trying to put some thinking to it, I did this, is more of like a feeling, and you can take that feeling and anchor it in your body. You can even give it a place in your body, a color, a shape, and you'll remember that thing. And because the piece that I think that derails people is, just like you mentioned, if you're in the zone, you start reflecting, you're thinking.
Mm-hmm.
And thinking, back to that Sam Harris piece. People have problems. What happens? They think about them. Thinking just makes everything worse, for gosh sakes. Mm-hmm. It's more about just that, feel what's going on and save the thinking for later. And so one of those things is to, what on those 3 shots, what did you do well?
Last night I was talking to my youngest, who is, just finished school for film, and she's got a short film that's making the rounds in these little film festivals. And she was talking to me. This is a long conversation I had with her last night about, she's a very, very smart young lady and very crazy thinker. And at one point I wrote it down because I thought this would be an apt point at some point. She said, because she's writing, she keeps trying to write new material. And she said the problem with writing is it requires complete surrender while overthinking it every step of the way. And I thought, I said to myself, geez, that's just like golf.
Totally.
And I said to her, can I steal that? She goes, why not? You've stolen everything else from me. I'm like, all right, just relax.
I made you.
Exactly. But she said, and I said, that's so much like golf. It requires complete surrender while trying not to overthink it every step of the way.
So you slightly don't care.
This is the point that, and one of the things Charles tried to have me understand, this is like quite a while ago, we were talking about, and we mentioned it on the show, but we are, in our little work that we do together occasionally, we're talking about what can you do over a golf ball. At that point, you've already figured out everything you want to hit it to 7 iron, there's the wind and all that stuff. And then over the ball, the problem with me and a lot of golfers is that we're trying to think about how to do it while we're doing it. And it's taken me a long time to get over a golf ball and just surrender to it. To say, well, and there's a difference between taking a swing that you don't care about versus a swing that you care about, but you're just gonna freaking rip it. You know what I mean? Or just surrender to it, because as you said to me at the time, Charles, you've hit bad shots and recovered. So what are you afraid of? Well, what most people are afraid of is hitting a bad shot, which happens all the time. You know,
Exactly.
What a weird thing. I hit bad shots all the time, so why would I be afraid of them?
And the more afraid you are, actually, ironically, the more likely they are.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
And that's the
Totally.
evil kind of part of it. And in the immortal words of Brooks Koepka, it's either going to be good or it's going to be bad. So just hit it.
Yeah. All right. Well, listen, Charles, that's where we're going to let you go because I can't stand Brooks Koepka. And
the eye roll heard around the world.
oh, I'm so, okay. Well, let's go around. What did you think of that, Charles? Because I'll tell you what I thought of it.
I think it's hilarious. I mean,
Me
young guys who are kind of in if I can say this, a pissing competition between the two of them, right?
Tim already said fuck. I don't know if you've heard that.
Well, they're in a dick measuring competition, basically, right?
We're taking it to the level.
Now we've hit that line, and
not even close for me. But you guys go, ahead with your little wading pool comedy.
It's just listen. It's guys with big egos, kind of clashing and contrasting. Again, I was talking with a buddy yesterday, and kind of said they both have these kind of very opposing kind of identities or personas that they've created, right? And it makes sense that they're going to clash because one's, I don't work that hard and I don't care that much, and I just kind of show up and win majors, and the other one's, I'm a scientist and I'm smarter than everybody and I work my tail off.
He's in a lab like Frankenstein.
Yeah, and so it makes sense that those two are going to clash, right? And to me, I love all the pieces that came out on social media that basically said, guess what the pairing is at the US Open.
Love it. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Timmy, what did you think of it?
Oh, I thought it was hilarious too. I mean, it's like schoolyard stuff, really. It's like the rivals, the guys who one guy's captain of the football team, the other kid's in the debating club. And whoa, it's wonderful stuff. Golf needs it. I love it. And social media just exacerbates it. So it makes it that much more fun. But also they're also projecting all over each other. They really are.
I know one thing. Brooks Koepka doesn't care about that player impact program. He doesn't give a shit about that.
No, of course, yeah. Oh, the one with the bonus thing for being a nice guy,
for not being a dick.
Yeah, he gets $40 million for being nice.
Yeah, he's not getting any of the don't be a dick money. Here's what I don't like Brooks Koepka, and I don't really care about him versus Bryson. Both of them are fine. What I don't like is some of my very good friends, including Fred, the guy I've worked with for 30 years, spent a lot of his time early in his career having to go into dressing rooms and interview athletes. He's told me stories, and I know a lot of guys that do that job. What I don't like about Brooks is when he's rude to the guys asking him questions.
Totally.
So forget the little eye rolling thing, because I think Brooks is a big baby. But when he was giving the guy shit about asking them, during the PGA about, was that a tough shot from the bush? And he's kind of like, well, it was in the bush. Of course he was a tough shot. And I'm like, you know what, Brooks Koepka, you fucking trailer park nobody. If you couldn't hit a golf ball, there would be zero interest in what you had to say. So I know I sounded a little angry there, but it bothers me that he thinks he's so great. And this poor guy asking him questions, and it's not just last week. Every time he's asked a question, it's like it's a big deal for him to answer it. Meanwhile, I want to say, you know what, Brooks? You'd be washing out, washroom stalls if you couldn't hit a golf ball. And I know that. Pardon me?
This is exactly my point. He's just
good.
This is exactly right. So this chippiness stuff is this defense mechanism. Because what's the big fear? That he'd be nobody.
Yeah.
So, so he's got this. So, but it's okay. I'm okay with it all. So what? It's all a big bluster show.
And I'm not saying that. There's other athletes that are terrible interviews. Like Tiger was horrible at it, but at least he wasn't dismissive most of the time. Anyway, I didn't want to end on a bummer. Let me just say that.
That was fun.
Charles, you're a beautiful angel, and I hope you are well. What are we playing? And I'm going to see you in Brantford in a couple weeks.
Did you find somebody to play with?
I did.
Excellent.
Yeah. I was really hoping that we could have snuck one in there, but it didn't happen. Yeah, I'm playing with a very good player. It's funny because the guy I was going to play with, really nice guy. And when I told the organizer, Danny, I said, I got a new guy's Craig Watkins. He goes, "Ooh, that's an upgrade." I said, "Really?" So I said, I won't tell my other partner that, but yeah, I'll see you in a couple weeks, my friend.
I can't wait. It's always a blast, and thanks guys for having me on. It's just always so much fun and covers such a wide range of
Yes.
wonderful topics.
Hey, dude, tell people how they can get a hold of you now, because Charles is also working on his own content.
Yeah, no, you can always find me on my website and with my email, eclipseperformance.ca and Charles at eclipseperformance.ca. But working on bringing some stuff to social media, as well as creating an online course so that people can go through and kind of learn the fundamental pieces that I work on with athletes in a concise and easy to kind of work through system that they can go through on their own.
Okay, well, as soon as it's ready, you let us know, and we're going to have you back soon. Okay, kid?
I can't wait, and I very much look forward to it.
Charlie Fitz, everybody, look at him.
Good
Look
to
at
see Charles. Take care.
Thanks, Charles. Appreciate it.
Guys.
All
Just
right.
let yourself out of the meeting. We want to congratulate our 2 winners last week of the TaylorMade prize pack, along with the Jonathan Wong ink polo. I guess the polo will be a fairway in green, or a zero restriction, or a bead ready. And the TaylorMade prize pack, you get a hat, you get a couple ball sampler, and I think one of them has a Masters towel, and the other one has a Masters head
Putter
cover.
cover.
Yeah.
That's
Congratulations
gotta be
to
amazing.
Tom Morgan. Pardon me, sir?
That's got to be amazing. Masters putter cover.
Tom Morgan and Jeff Riddell. I've already gotten a hold of them, and there are winners. We're going to do it again in a couple weeks for the U.S. Open. Yeah, I'm not a big Brooks fan, as you can tell. You know, we were talking about
that was Bush League, the way he responded. Just like a miserable prat. You know, like, get professional, for gosh sakes.
You know, I begrudgingly respect the fact that he's won 4 majors, but it doesn't. I don't care, honestly. You know, it's funny. Speaking of the major, I was never a huge Phil Mickelson fan because I was a Tiger fan, and I always thought Mickelson was a bit fake. You know, a little bit too much of that. Trying to be like Palmer with the thumbs up. But I felt weird cheering for Phil on Sunday. It would be like if you were a Leafs fan cheering for the Habs begrudgingly, you know. I said to Fred the other day, and it's so funny, he had such a fast answer. I said, because I was telling this to Fred, I said, it made me feel dirty, you know, cheering for Phil. I said, Fred, have you ever cheered for the Montreal Canadiens, his most hated team in sports? And right away he came, December 8th, 1975. I'm like, what? He goes, yeah, they were playing the Russians. And it was the only time in my life. Remember that? When Russia came and did those exhibition matches?
That's hilarious.
He had that date
Etched.
the one time in his life.
Oh, yeah.
But I found myself cheering Phil on for various reasons. What about you?
Well, you know, I'm the same with you. I've never been a Phil fan at all. And I used to just really dislike him big time. Because, I thought it was kind of fake. The Dodio, yuck, yuck, dummy, everybody liked me stuff. Plays to the cameras. And you know, still, there's elements of him that rub me the wrong way. You know, he's always got to get the upper hand in social media. You notice that in terms of anyone makes a comment, he's got to one-up him and stuff. So, I don't know. Maybe I've still got some childhood wounds I'm trying to recover from.
I guarantee it. I absolutely
Well, we all do. But it was that schoolyard thing. No. But I was cheering for Phil. You know, for all kinds of different reasons. Amazing to watch a guy make history, for gosh sakes.
Yeah, history is number one for me.
And a 50-year-old keeping it up with the kids. I mean, he was bombing it out there. Mm-hmm. And I also love the chemistry between him and his brother. And Phil was doing just a lot of good things that I hadn't seen him do in some previous events. He just seemed to be kind of quieter on the golf course, even though the fans who just adore him, he wasn't responding that much. It was just the little thumbs up, and then he was back to business. And
there was a really sweet,
all kinds of good things.
There was a really sweet moment after he canned that bunker shot, which was very cool. I don't know if you remember that. It was, I think, the 6th hole. He hits the bunker shot.
Yeah.
and he takes the ball and he gives it to the kid in the wheelchair.
I
I thought it was a very sweet moment, and it didn't seem
course.
contrived to me.
No.
It just seemed like, oh, that's cute. I will say, for the first 7 holes, that was pretty exciting golf.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Well,
You
I
know,
love the fact. Yeah, totally. Well, the way it started.
That's what I said. The first 7 holes, they had 3 or 4 2-shot swings. You don't see that in high level golf very much, and it was sort of like, to Brooks' credit, it was like, wow, just going back and forth. It was very entertaining.
Yeah, what I thought was cool from that was his brother Tim said, "Phil, you're not committed to your shots."
Mm-hmm.
And I think he says commit to it every time anyways, but
Yes.
it gave him a little scolding there. And that helped. Phil said that helped turn it around.
Well, what I loved what he said. He said to his brother, took him aside and said, "Listen, if you want to win this golf tournament, you're going to have to hit some committed shots." Because we all, and I felt that we all relate to that, because a lot of times in golf, we have this kind of like sort of we kind of want it to be, but we're not sure if we're going to commit. It's like, can you get up on a tee and just swing away, right? One of the reasons a lot of us can't is because we're afraid of where it might go. But as Tim was trying to say to Phil, you're going to have to let some go here if we're going to win. That is probably the most improved thing for me over the last couple of years, where the last couple of months, as you jokingly said, I've taken a PhD in decade, and I have, because the lockdown came just at the time that I was reaching out to this Fawcett guy and trying to get him on, but he wouldn't do it, but Stagner would, etc. So I decided I would immerse myself into this program. And you and I took the course a couple of years ago. But what we learned that day with Casey at Glen Abbey, that was a good foundation, and it's helped me. But as I've kept saying, the handling expectations and just letting it go, knowing that variance will happen, has really given me some confidence to just stand over a ball and not swing as hard as I can, but swing as freely as I can.
Totally.
And you can tell right away when you didn't do it. And I stole that from Tim this week, Tim Mickelson. I knew a couple times during the rounds I played, I was like, oh no, you didn't quite commit to that. Because you can just feel the difference where you're like, oh, trying to guide the club through the ball as opposed to just wailing away. Even if it's a 3/4 lob, over a bunker, you've just got to at some point go, well, here we are. Let's see what happens.
Yeah, like you were saying earlier, it's like trust and surrender.
Yes.
I mean, it doesn't mean not caring. It doesn't mean zoning out. I mean, sometimes it's a hard thing to explain, but it's like, how can I be completely present to this shot and not be, in essence, in the future, am I going to screw this up?
Not interrupt it.
Yeah. And the thing that I think that was, so the difference between a committed shot and it's what are you committed to? Are you committed to hitting this shot just and letting it go, whether it's bombing a fade out there, hitting a knockdown 6-iron or whatever, or is it, geez, I hope I don't screw this up.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I hope I don't look like an idiot. I hope that I don't get beat by this Brooks Koepka guy who I can't stand. It's what are you committed to? And then the being able to stay with that. And that is,
Timmy,
that's hard to do.
I would say at the amateur level, taking away from the Brooks Phil match, at the amateur level, we're all thinking some of those things, and we're thinking, how do I do this? Because listen, I practice a lot. Everyone knows that. I work on my game. I practice a lot, but I do that for 2 reasons. One, I really like it. I'm not only doing it so I'll get better. I just like it.
It's not working at your game.
I just enjoy it. So when I'm standing over a shot, my challenge is, okay, I've done all this work. Now can I just get over this and swing it without going, what is it? Is it my backswing I'm trying to? Because we've had this joke on the show a few times where, sometimes and it's happened to me and every amateur, where you're standing over the ball and you're going through your Rolodex of things. I've had this happen more as an older man, where I'm over the ball and I'm like, can't remember what my swing thought was for the day.
It's like Jeff Goldblum. It's like Jeff Goldblum and Annie Hall when he sees referencing a film from 1970s.
That's
He's
all
on
right.
the phone in Los Angeles, and he's Jeff Goldblum's talking to his guru. Says, "I forgot my mantra."
That's right. And over the ball, a lot of us have had that experience where I have at least where I'm like, but that's not the point. You should be thinking about your swing thoughts. Having a swing thought is fine. You see pros rehearse behind the ball, et cetera, et cetera. But when they're over the ball, and I know this from Charles and other good players, it's no longer time to remember, I'm trying to take it back a little bit, whatever. It's just time to go swing. And Nick Tricchilio told me this. Charles told me this, that it hasn't, and you're going to love this segue. Where I really have felt it physically now is most recently, and I'll tell you why. Because I've spent 2 weeks every other day swinging those speed sticks as hard as I can. And you have as well. I know you started last week. But I can tell you the residual effect that I didn't expect from 39 swings with abandon, as hard as I can, as fast as I can swing a golf club. What it's done for me in my golf game is over the ball, it's allowed me to just release it. Just go, okay, I'm over the ball now. I got a wedge. It's 110. I'm not going to swing as hard as I can, but I am going to go at this with abandon because given the variance of shots I might hit a great one or one that goes over there or over there. I'll just live with it. Now, please take the conversation in a super speed.
Did you? So I think you've given me a lateral, and I'm catching it now. I take it and I have it. And I need to come up with something interesting to say because there's so much that was cool there. You're experiencing freedom, and I've had the same thing in when you're swinging as fast as I can. Well, thinking it's not in the equation because I would swing slower.
Yeah, there's no time for it.
You just go, and it's just this feeling of just like, whoa, everything's going, and it's free, and it's just easier. It's very interesting so just as we talked with Ryan, Ryan
Robillard from SuperSpeed. SuperSpeed Swing.
He said that you do one session, there's immediate payoff right away. I went, I think I might have been 79, 80, my first round post. And then I played Sunday morning, 9 holes, 39. I had to quit. I had to go off, do something. But it was like, and what was I thinking? Zero. I wasn't thinking at all. And that's the struggle in golf. Back to Charles, the control thing. We want to think our way through it because that's where our ego does. Our ego wants to protect us, keep us from pain. So what it does, it comes up with solutions, tries fixes, trying controls. And that's the really hard thing. And the thing that I think I would just want to, as I pass the ball to you, sir, is the thing that I'm experiencing through using the super speed sticks is that through swinging as fast as I can, I'm in a way practicing the approach I want to take to the golf course, which is swinging with freely and abandoning. That's with abandon. That's not swinging 100%. It's swinging freely. And so there's no thinking. But the challenge in golf is if you want to play golf a certain way, you need to practice that way. Yeah. And the problem that golfers have is that they go out to the range and they think about what they're doing with their elbow or their knee, and you can't take that to the course. So you need to be practicing in a performance way so you can take that to the golf course. That was about 20 different things I tried to string.
I wrote a note to Ryan, who is, like I said, we had him on a couple of weeks ago. Now, I don't know if you remember, but I've had the speed sticks, the super speed sticks for about, I think I had them at the cottage with Rachel in 2018. I got them and I thought, well, I remember looking at the protocols online and I didn't really understand it. I just did it. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't until, actually it was Casey. He's the one that told me about that little PRGR monitor, which is a great little tool. And it's great if you want to take your clubs out to a range and see how far you hit shots. And
there it is,
cool.
folks.
There it is.
Don't have it turned on.
But I can tell you and I had Ronan sent me a note. A couple other people sent me notes about the speed sticks. And I said, listen, I said the same thing. I've had them for 4 years almost, but it wasn't until 3 weeks ago.
Cool, eh?
Yeah.
So sorry, I hope I didn't interrupt you. I was just trying to provide a visual.
Okay. It wasn't until I had them and used them with the monitor, because the numbers Timmy just showed you, the monitor gives you a sense of, are you making any progress? Because unlike the last time I had these sticks and started using them, in fact, I gave them away. I lent them to a buddy. They weren't even in my house for a couple summers. But now seeing, so I've done, I'm going to say maybe not even like 7 sessions. But because you can quantify your increases, our craving minds, ego, whatever, but it also gives you a baseline to see if there's any progress being made. And I can tell you it's fascinating. I sent my numbers to Ryan a couple of days ago. I said, okay, here's where I've been at. And one of the things I said is, I'm starting to get, and this is what he commented on, he said, I really like this sentence because I feel I'm starting to get more comfortable swinging that stick faster. And it's a funny psychological thing, especially when we get older, older people do things slower, as he said, you just get kind of used to being in it. But there's a barrier that I thought I couldn't go past because my shoulder's sore and I don't think I could swing it that fast. But I got to tell you, man, in 2 weeks, the increase is incredible. Now I'm going to plateau. And so will you. The first stage, the first 6 weeks.
They tell you you're going to plateau.
You're going to plateau, but I've already. I'll finish by saying I've taken that monitor out and done it with my driver on a range. It's crazy how much faster I'm swinging the golf club.
Yeah, it's it's so cool. So I've done it 3 times.
Yeah,
and but I got to ask you, this has been a very high level conversation. How elegant are your left-handed swings?
Yeah, so there's the dominant side and the non-dominant side, and I really hate the non-dominant swings.
Me
partly
too.
Because I'm very uncoordinated. Even though I shot left in hockey, I find it. I protect my shoulder a little bit.
Yeah.
I swing as hard as I can without, like, I always feel like I'm pulling something at my side or something. So how do you want to? You can share.
Well, I'm interested in terms of
you can share if you want.
What your experience is around why that's important. So it's fun because I find that when I'm doing it, swinging from my non-dominant, which is my left-handed side, I feel like I look like a guy who someone took out a lunch hour. Yeah, you got to learn this golf thing, and it's
you should try this.
Yeah, but it's interesting too is that I can only do an interlock grip.
Me too. I can't. I got an interlocking left-handed. I can't
figure out what I'm supposed to do with my pinky and my index, and so I do the interlock. And I always do when I'm getting like to the fastest swing, I always do the step through. It's like the Gary Player thing, Yeah, it's like my left foot goes forward. But anyways, I'm still trying to get a sense from that experience how that translates into helping with performance from my dominant side. I don't know. Do you have any insight yet?
I think it's for balance. I also think it's for building up strength. I did have an interesting conversation with Ryan because I called him and we were talking about, the development and where it would go and how it would I thought you were going to say how it would translate to the golf course. And here's how, I won't give you any numbers, but I'll give you one number. So my club head speed when I got fit in February. Now, I hadn't taken very many golf swings at that point, and I wasn't swinging particularly fast. And again, I had a certain swing speed that I was comfortable swinging. And it's always been around 99, 100, 101. So in February, when I got fit for the Sim 2, TaylorMadeGolf.ca, I was swinging it around the same, about 101 or so. Last week, after my 5th SuperSpeed training, I went out and did a few swings on the range after the round. at the end of a long day, and I was swinging it at 107 miles an hour.
Fantastic.
My carry distance was 253, and I was just blown away. Not surprising, because on the golf course, I hit some, how bombs.
Yeah.
I did a couple of how bombs, and I was like, "How you like that, old man?"
Yeah,
But
pretty
yeah,
impressive. For a 61-year-old man but of course you do have the TaylorMade Sim2 driver.
Buddy, it's so good. I hit it so good. I wasn't sure. I was like, I wonder if I'll be able to put it in my bag right away. Then I hit a few. I'm like, I will.
I went from a 10.5 to 9, and I'm loving the trajectory. And no, I'm loving it. But the whole speed, super speed thing has been really interesting, and it's taking off for huge. I think there's this explosion of what's going on with this. I saw within days of the PGA last week, Phil, there was like one in his bag. And who's the fellow who won just the week before? No, what? Rory didn't win. Was it the week before or 2 weeks before? I can't remember the guy's name. I think he's Korean.
Okay, H. Lee.
Yeah, he uses them.
Yeah.
And I think what's interesting is that there's this. I think people are having this experience that golf isn't necessarily this connect the dots. Kind of what I call tab A into slot B golf.
Yeah.
That I got to fold my elbow and do this, and that it's like what Fred Shoemaker's been talking about for eons. How can we make golf more instinctual, closer to our natural swing?
Yeah.
Hence, Fred was doing the throw a club thing, and people laugh at it. It's not much different than super speed. It's just like you're doing something on an instinctual level of trying to let something go
on a physical level versus a thinking level.
Exactly, and we do our best in all kinds of things. Even whether you're trying to solve a business issue or solve a problem or your golf swing, when you're not in that ego mind of thinking and controlling, you can really perform because you're accessing what's natural to you. The talent you have, the skill, your experience, but you're putting basically the handcuffs on yourself whenever you're starting to think about, swing it slow, let your elbow fall, do all that kind of stuff. It all just slows down and you're not able to swing freely.
The thing is, those are all fine things to work on when it's time to work on fine things. The problem is, and I harken back to what Charles and I talked about a couple of years ago, and how I had this epiphany about you can't do the thing while thinking about how to do the thing. But back to something I mentioned to you on the show a couple of weeks ago, when I first started using these, I had Rachel videotape. This is like the second day I used it, because I had this kind of like a light bulb went off, and I went, wow, man, I'm really swinging this a lot faster than I thought I was able to. Again, a psychological barrier. So I said, Rach, just tape this for me, will you? She's like, really? Do I have to do this? Anyway, I said, yes, this is important. I said, come to the golf nursery right away. And I remember looking at the swing, and all the things that I want to do in my golf swing were evident in that video of me swinging the green stick as hard as I could. And I was like, wow. Like, I wasn't thinking of any of my what I'm working on thoughts, and they were all there. When I just was like, using your word, I was just swinging with abandon versus being careful. And back to what I was saying about how it's translated instantly into my golf game. I played 4 rounds of golf, and other than the first day where it was a really tough day. I shot 80, but I've had 75, 75, 74. I shot 74 Tuesday with 2 of our pros who both hit it tons, and an amateur who's got a +1 handicap. And it was a tough day. And I hit it very nicely, but I just decaded my whole round was a decade round. But over every shot, I'm getting to the point, whether it was a wedge or my driver, I just swung with as much freedom as I could, knowing that chances are it'll be fine. And even if it's not, it'll also be fine.
Yeah,
You know?
absolutely. And that's, it's going to be fine. Absolutely. No
Yeah,
matter
it'll
what
be fine.
happens, you know,
Yeah.
so the majority of our listeners don't have these super speed sticks, and you know it's worth checking them out, folks. But one thing that I would, if you want to have a sense of how you could feel this, and you might feel weird doing this. You don't have to throw a club. You know, if you got some room in your backyard, you got a big, and you want to just give it a shot and see what happens. Or on a range, just throw a golf ball. Seriously, just throw a couple golf balls. Yeah, you might look weird, but feel and compare what happens in your regular golf swing. And I guarantee you, when you throw a club or you just throw a ball, you'll be amazed at what happens. You'll be in this amazing finish position. All the good things that you want to have happen in your golf swing happen when you swing or you do something instinctually.
Mm-hmm.
And I've seen it in Fred Shoemaker's. I've seen all kinds of his videos. He does a pre and a post. And the pre video is, okay, let's see your golf swing. And you see people that fire and fall back, and they lose the leg, and they're all this kind of stuff, and hit behind the ball, and they're kind of behind it that way. It says, now throw the club. And you see people they look like they're standing right up. They're posting right up on that lead leg.
I know, they look like pros.
Exactly. The left hip's turned, and they're standing right up there. And that's what happens when you can just swing with some freedom. But it's coming back to sort of what's natural and instinctual, rather than thinking about this thing that I try to do correctly.
I think it comes back to the beginning of the show, not just today, but in the beginning of our journey together. The path is, for me at least, has been from thinking too much to not thinking as much / trusting what I have. And, again, I've had some good progress the last couple of summers, and so far I can tell you, I feel pretty good about the state of where I am, not just golf swinging guy, but just kind of how I'm feeling my way around golf in general. A lot of it is the decade stuff, because I've really learned what, like an okay shot is versus what I was frustrated about before. I was very frustrated for 2 reasons, 200 reasons, but two in particular is I thought I should be better than I was. But then I found out through talking to Lou Stagner the other day, like statistically, I'm already at scratch. The numbers I put up every time I play are around what a scratch golfer shoots. So I'm like, oh, really? I'm all right. But also, I didn't realize that to do that, I didn't have to be anywhere near as good as I thought I had to be. I thought I had to make 6 birdies a round.
Yeah.
The last 2 rounds of golf, I've made 2 birdies a round, but I've had one huge statistic that used to screw me up. I've had 0 3-putts.
Wow.
And I'll tell you why, because I'm not trying to make 25-foot putts anymore. Sweet. If I can finish, I'll tell you my final GSL tip of the week is this. I'm going to brand this. My final tip of the week is this. I would recommend SuperSpeed. And listen, we've got 2 sponsors that we love, but we hardly ever recommend, like really heartily recommend anything. I would recommend these sticks for sure. But I would also recommend you delve a little bit into Decade, just maybe not to the point that I did, but just find out for your handicap level. See what a good shot is for a 10 handicapper from 150, 125, and 100. And I'll tell you, it will lower your flash point. And that alone is worth it. Because I can tell you, for me, I've missed some shots this year already in that round of 74. Missed plenty of shots. But I was able to accept them in a way because I'm like, oh, yeah, I wasn't so terrible. I missed the green, but I walked off. I'm 45 feet from the flag. I missed the green, but I'm within, a decent scatter pattern. No big deal. Whereas before, Tim, and you've played with me, before I would be somewhat pissed at that shot.
Petulant.
Thank you. So that's my tip.
All right, great one. Well, my tip is that you could start by buying the book or borrowing it from the library even. Every Shot Counts by Mark Brody, because that has all those that guy's the data nerd who basically he's the guy behind strokes gained.
He's
so
also
you'll
the
learn,
guy. But he's also the guy that Fawcett credits for getting him into this
Cool.
into this math for sure. Quotes
so
him
you
all
can
the time.
you can learn so much just from that, and then by increments just go further with it. But one of the things that's really interesting is that, so I do these webinars and I'll have some questions at the end, and so I'll have someone say, well, next time I go out, I'm going to swing like I don't care. And I went, that's not exactly it. What we're aiming for here is a level of engagement that's kind of relaxed concentration. Timothy Galway, I think, is the one who came up with that lovely phrase. So it's being in a place where it's a balance of things. So what I like about what we've been talking about decade is that if I know that a shot that comes out of the rough and lands within 40 feet or so, that's an okay shot. That just frees me from these expectations and whatnot.
Right.
I can swing with a little bit more fun, but
also acceptance too.
Yeah,
you're more likely to accept a shot from 178 that lands 60 feet right of the flag. But if you know that's a pretty good, for our level, that's a pretty good shot.
Right. And so you can stay in that place of just that place of flow, of easiness. It doesn't mean you're like in the hallowed zone, but you're just like, things are easy and we're going along, and we're, instead of spiking with, oh, crazy, I'm off the moon with joy because this happened, and down to like, hide the sharp objects, is just playing a little more, equanimity with a little bit more peace. Because you think about when we're really in the zone, whether it's, working on a business project, writing something, we're fully there. It's like we're not wondering if we're doing it right. We're just right there, and it's going okay. And next thing you look up and it's dark out, and you realize, I got to go to the bathroom really badly because I've been sitting here for 4 hours, because you've just been so into it.
Yeah.
And it's it's a beautiful place to be.
It's even informed some of my practice habits now. Because yesterday I didn't play, but I spent an hour on the range with my buddy Paul Henrik. Just kind of, the first time he's looked at my swing all year, and so we talked a couple of swing things, very subtle. Then I went to Glencairn because you're not allowed to have teachers at the courses yet. So I met Paul at a range. Then I drove myself to Glencairn. I had booked a range time, and I went right to the putting green, and I did these. I have a couple of decade drills. Then I started practicing my short pitch shots, 8 yards, 10 yards, 12 yards. And here's where I'll finish by saying is I have been practicing around that green for 9 years. And I remember even in my practice, 5 balls, seeing how many I would, potentially get up and down. And I used to have such an unrealistic criterion for what would be an up and down. I thought I was supposed to, from 10 and 12 yards, get it to a foot. Well, my friend, on the PGA Tour, from 8 yards, and I mentioned this statistic before, but I'll say it again in this context. So yesterday I walked off 8 yards, 10 yards, 12 yards, and all over the practice green. From 8 yards on the PGA Tour, their average proximity is 5 feet 2 inches. So all of a sudden now I'm practicing, rather than being frustrated in practice. Oh shit, I'm not a foot from the hole. I would say, how many can I get in a 5 or 4 or 6 foot circle? From 12 yards, their proximity is 6 feet 3 inches. So here I am, some amateur.
Yeah.
And so yesterday when I was practicing, I was like, I was having a positive experience. So out of 5 balls, I might get a couple 3 or 4 feet. A couple might be 5 feet. Oh, there's an outlier at 8 feet. But it even calmed my expectations down around what is it you're practicing. And by the way, from a bunker at 8 yards, I hit some nice bunker shots yesterday. 8 feet, 10 feet, 7 feet, 4 feet. From a bunker at 8 yards, their proximity is 6 feet 11 inches. I suck. Why do I think I should hit it stiff from a bunker? You shouldn't. You get a bunker shot on at a 15 handicap. If you get a bunker shot on the green, job well done. At our level, my level, if you get a bunker shot within 7 or 8 feet, that's great. And the other thing it does is when you're on the golf course and you hit a bunker shot to 8 feet, rather than be pissed off, which I would be, now I go, oh, cool. I have a chance to sink an 8-foot putt now. Good job, buddy. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Totally. And what a different way to play. Really.
Exactly.
And so, oh man, but I still find it mind blowing. We've been talking about this stuff for a couple of weeks now. You're saying from 8 yards, the tour average is to get it within 5 feet.
To gain 0 strokes, meaning an average, so you don't gain, you don't lose, to just be neutral from, check this out, from 20 yards. So go to your golf course next time, pace off 20 yards from the flag in the rough, like in the collar around the green, pace off 20 yards and see if you can get it within 8 feet and 10 inches, because that's their average from 20 yards. Like, don't believe me.
I still find that just crazy. Like you said, from 8 yards, they get it within 5 feet. I mean,
yes.
That just seems like, based on my old way of understanding what good was, that'd be crappy. I'd be pissed off at myself because I thought that I'm supposed to, in chipping, I'm supposed to all, just like you said, they're all
always
supposed to
have it within
like
a 3. Yeah.
Yeah, and like, whoa, really?
I was going to say, if you don't believe me, like I watched a little bit of the golf last night. I recorded it, and I see it all through a filter of these numbers. Watch the golf. Watch them from. I watched Justin Thomas go double bogey, 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 bogey in a 4-hole stretch. 3 times he was putting for bogey in that stretch because 3 times he had a pitch shot. He tried to get too cute with it and left it short. 2 times he left it short of the green. So my point is, when you watch the best players in the world, watch the guys playing Thursday and Friday. See just how great they don't hit it all the time. And then Justin Thomas, like all good players, had a 3 or 4 hole stretch like we all do. What's his face? Billy Horschel was 4 under on the front 9 and then made 4 straight bogeys. So in our rounds of golf this weekend and this summer, we all are going to have periods of play that aren't very good. Like Charles said, you're going to have some good shots. You're going to have some bad shots. But what Dustin Thomas did is, after that stretch, made a birdie, made a couple pars, started to get it back. But it wasn't like he was shooting, at flags, and his proximity during that rough patch wasn't very good. Wasn't any better than you and me.
I know, but they didn't go out and harm themselves. No,
that's true.
they don't punish their 5-iron by whatever.
That's true.
I would love to get, speaking of PhDs, you and Decade, Charles, in sports psychology, a PhD in expectations, because that is just such an interesting topic to me of how we just make our lives miserable because it's supposed to be this way. No, it should be this way. Oh my gosh, I think in all parts of our lives, we just really kind of screw ourselves up.
Well, that was that thing I said at the earlier part of the show about the Sam Harris thing, is that we live lives of desperate and quiet frustration because of this fantasy that life was supposed to be, fantastic every day. And as Sam Harris says, every day, some piece of equipment that you rely on. Oh, I can't, my phone's not charged. The computer isn't working, the printer. Shit goes wrong every day. And yet for some reason, we're surprised.
Yeah,
Tim O'Connor, o'connorgolf.ca. What a beauty. JW Apparel Inc. Some of the great, honestly, the nicest golf stuff I've ever worn. And very grateful to have him supporting this program along with our friends at TaylorMadeGolf.ca. We're going to put together another prize package for you for the U.S. Open. There's the irons, and now make sure you try out the TP5 golf ball. Find out more at TaylorMadeGolf.ca. Tim, what a great time with you, sir. Thank you.
It was, yeah. Did you get your little TaylorMade little gift box this week?
I'm going to go pick it up. I saw it was at the UPS store.
Yeah, it's
Is it
lovely.
sweet?
Yeah, it's lovely. I love Christmas in late May.
Now I'm all excited. And don't forget the Humble and Fred program, Canada's longest running podcast, humbleandfredradio.com. We'll see you next time.
Can't afford when he gets up under the lights to play his thing.
Stop record.